Hi, thanks for joining me today for Let's Be Creative with LBC. My name is Tracy. Today's video is dedicated to teachers. We are very near the end of a most unusual, unprecedented, and somewhat crazy school year, and I'd like to give a shout out to the teachers in my life and the teachers in your life. Today we are going to make a card with an apple as the focus. You might know that it's sort of a tradition to give teachers an apple. So in this episode, we are going to draw and paint an apple, learn a little bit about how that became a thing, and make a few really beautiful cards. We are going to use oil pastels. A lot of times people think that oil pastels are crayons. They're a lot like crayons. The only thing is they're much softer, and so you can use multiple colors and blend them, and it turns out to be a really beautiful image. I am going to use mixed media paper, which is basically a heavy cardstock. Any kind of paper will do. A little bit heavier is nice if you've got it. All right, so grab your oil pastels, get some paper, and let's get started. Lightly with a pencil, draw a C shape on the left side of the apple and then a backward C shape on the right. Draw a small rainbow shape at the very bottom and let the two lines at the top crisscross a little bit. Add 2 leaves and a stem and you are ready to color. Oil pastels are all about blending, so first start with a heavy red line on the left side of the apple and then another along the right side of the apple, maintaining the shape of the apple as you go. You want to maintain those sort of C shapes as you're putting in color. Add a little bottom red at the very bottom. Then come inside and put the pink color right next to it. Again, you're being pretty heavy-handed and putting a heavy bit. Now, use your finger to blend those shapes together. You'll want to push pretty hard and it gets a little bit messy, but blend the colors together. Then you will continue moving toward the center, adding red and then pink. For this project, I used 6 oil pastel colors. I used red, pink, blue-green, moss, which is a green, and brown. And the secret ingredient is white. That is where everything comes together really beautifully. Continue adding the color until you work to the middle. You'll want to add the little seeds at the very middle, smudge them up a little bit, and then put white around that. And add white over your red and pink and just keep blending and pushing those colors together until you're happy with what you see. Now it's time for the stem and leaves. I'll use the brown color for the stem. Draw a little line and then smudge it a little bit. I'm using the blue-green color first for the leaves. It's the darker of the 2 greens and will blend better. Next to that, I'm adding moss and then blend. Once I've got that blended, I'm going to add some white to finish it off. After I'm happy with the leaves, I will revisit the apple, see if I can do a little bit more work on that. As I explain a little bit about what I learned about apples and teachers, I'll create an apple that doesn't show the seeds on the inside. So I learned the earliest stories from teachers receiving apples as gifts were from Scandinavia in the 1700s. Families would give teachers entire basketfuls of apples as a sign of appreciation for their hard work. In this country, pioneers were responsible for the housing and feeding of their children's teachers. And so, in that manner, they would give teachers apples as a sign of appreciation at that time too. Apples were considered a practical and much appreciated gift. Did you know that apples are not native to North America? 'Tis true. They were brought to the United States from Europe in the 16 and 1700s. All right, so as I wrap up this apple, I'm going to continue adding layers of color and blending. color, blend, with the secret ingredient of the white oil pastel to make it all pop. It was so much fun to play with those oil pastels. I haven't gotten mine out for a while. So there was an artist in the 1600s named Johannes Vermeer. He was a Dutch Baroque painter, and he used oil paints from that time. Paints have changed over the years. That was over 300 years ago. Anyway, Vermeer painted amazing pieces. He did amazing work, and the 35 or so remaining pieces that he painted, the ones that we know of, hang in the most famous and important museums in the world. And the latest one that sold was something like $40 million. Anyway, Vermeer died penniless. He had a total financial crash. And the reason for that is because he never completed his work. He didn't ever consider his work to be complete. Part of that is because of the oil paint that he used, never fully dried. But the bigger part of it is because he just kept working and reworking and working his paintings. He was very slow at getting work finished, which wasn't really good for the clients and patrons he was painting for. The reason I tell you all this is because oil pastels are a little bit the same way. You can just keep adding color. You could add a color that doesn't even seem that it belongs on your work, and as long as you blend it in, it turns out, for the most part, really beautiful. So I had a lot of fun. I made quite a few things here. I have these that I can still turn into cards. This is a solid apple, and then one with the seeds. I have another here. No two are alike. They're all a little bit different. Here's a completed card. I used craft paper. This is oil pastel rubbed into the perimeter of the card, and I mounted it a little bit high. I put some pop dots. So there's another card. It's so pretty. I can write thank you on here or leave it plain. I could add a bow or ribbon on it. Here's another one with a little smaller format. This is one that is yet to be done. On these cards, I could also tear leaves out of paper and add them on here to give them a sense of dimension. We've done that in a previous video. And then this is the last one. I was doodling, making little rosettes with a Sharpie, and then I colored them in with my oil pastels, and that's where I put the larger heart. Hearts and apples. There is sort of a heart shape in there now that I mention it. Anyway, so I'm not sure where else in this, but I was really pleased with how that one turned out. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed or will enjoy making some cards if you have oil pastels. If not, maybe you need to get some or ask some for your birthday. Meanwhile, the main thing here is to thank our teachers. Thank you, teachers. The couple of teachers who I will be sending these to hopefully will be appreciate them and just know how much that their work is appreciated and how much they're loved. And so as we wind down the school year, I hope you are safe and well and that you enjoy the last couple weeks of this school year. Take care, and meanwhile, tune in next week for another episode of Let's Be Creative with LBC.